I mean, it was brutal. I mean, really brutal. I mean, I had to like get a job.
How?
But I met these. I know. Anyway, so I met these kids in the halfway house that were into the Ramones and the Sex Pistols, and that was right in 1980, 81 when the thing was just getting rolling in Minneapolis. And then when we all got out of this prison, then they asked me to be in their band, and it was a silly punk rock band called the Dads. And we used to play at the Longhorn, opening for the Suburbs a lot, and opening for the Replacements and Husker Du. I even have a poster of the Replacements opening for us.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome.
That didn't last long.
Take that.
Yeah. And so, growing up, going to shows at the Longhorn, and then that shut down, and it was all about the 7th Street entry. But it was an amazing time in Minneapolis because you had the whole, all the best, punk bands in the country were from here. Jayhawk Soul Asylum, Matt's, Husker Du, blah, blah, blah. And then we also had one of the more interesting parts of Prince's career taking off, kind of culminating in Purple Rain in 84, 85. And so I was young and stupid and didn't realize how lucky I was. I just thought, oh, this is what it's like everywhere. But I remember going to New York City in 85 and walking down the street, and it was hot, and all the shop doors were open, and every single one had Purple Rain and When Doves Cry coming out of the window. And it was that minute in time when it was cooler to be from Minneapolis than it was to be from New York.
We were talking before we were on air, at about that same, probably 2 years later, I moved to London, and everyone was like, "You're from Minneapolis?
Right?
You're the coolest." As opposed to I've lived there. So is your dad a farmer?
And now we're back to that, I think.
Yeah. We're getting much closer. Yeah.
So, not that it's not cool here. I just think, every city has runs, you know what I mean? After us, it was Seattle and blah, blah, blah. So, I just, wasted my time in the 80s playing in very mediocre bands. That first punk band, one of our more popular songs was, I was just the guitar player, I didn't write, didn't sing, had no interest in that, was called I Don't Want to Join the Army, and the singer wrote it, and then he quit the band to join the Army.
Oh, jeez.
So I was like, I better learn how to sing and write, because I don't want to have my little wagon hitched to, this. And
because you really didn't want to join the Army.
No, not that they would have me, but yeah, I didn't want to join the Army. But so I started writing and singing, and then I got a lucky break. My biggest lucky break is in 87. I met my wife. She had just opened the Fine Line, and my other lucky break came after the Fine Line. She worked for Prince, and she built Glam Slam nightclub, and so I used to get all these opening gigs that I didn't deserve, and there's a career tip right there.
I was just gonna say that's yeah.
And one night in the audience was this Uber producer, David Z, who produced Prince and Fine Young Cannibals and all this stuff. And he took me after the show. He said, "Hey, I really like your songs. We should get together. I'd like to hear some of your songs." And I was like, "Okay." So he had an office at Paisley Park, because Paisley was just a studio that was open to the public back then. You could just book time there, and he had so many hits out of there that they just gave him an office.
Nice.
Yeah, and I was super intimidated, and went there and met with him, and he basically said, in a little bit nicer way, but not that much nicer, he said, "You're not very good, and your band isn't very good, but your songs are really good, and if someone more talented and younger and better looking than you was singing them, you could make some real money." And I didn't
Thanks.
know.
Ouch.
Well, I know. I was kind of like, wow, this is not how I thought this was going to go. But this is before the internet, so none of us knew what publishing was. The musicians nowadays are so much more sophisticated. And I was like, so someone else sings my songs, so what? What happens then? Anyway, he took one of the songs and he went off to make a record for this Kenny Wayne Shepherd guy. That's his first record. Nobody had ever heard of him. And he used one of my songs on it, and it went platinum. And that's when I learned. Then I learned about publishing, and I realized that should be my main thing, is writing. And then so I wrote for Kenny Wayne Shepherd and Johnny Lang, and it's weird because I'm just this aging Jewish punk rocker, but you get pigeonholed, and it's not such a bad thing. All of a sudden, I was like the blues guy, so I was like, okay, I'll do that, and it turned into like writing for Etta James and Joe Cocker and all these fat, really, really amazing things. And then I started producing, mostly from watching David and other producers that I worked with, and you just kind of like, wow, what's that? What do those knobs do? And just kind of picked that up over time. which turned out to be handy because nowadays I think it's hard for just a writer to make it. They really want you to be like, you do whatever needs to be done. You need to be able to produce, engineer, have your own studio, write, mix, edit, all this kind of stuff. And I like doing all of it, so it turned out pretty well.
I'm just going to give you a softball then and say, where would someone learn how to do all of that?
I don't think there's anything these days that you can't learn from YouTube or online tutorials. And I did work for many years at a college that taught this stuff, but I'm not really a big fan of for-profit colleges for a trade like that. I mean, I was an English major at the U of M and I loved it. I didn't finish, but I loved it. And college was so cheap back then. But if you want to know music theory and things like that, it's probably good to, go to music college. But if you want to do what I do, I think, and if you're the kind of person that can learn stuff, you're self-motivated, to learn stuff on the internet, then it's really limitless, I think. So that would be my advice now.
I love that answer. That is not what I thought you were going to go straight for talking about the college, but I think that's very valuable.
Some of my students ended up to go on to do great things, but some of them ended up. I mean, this business it's tough. It's tough, and some of them ended up saddled with a bunch of student loan debt. And would they have made it if they just, tried to learn on YouTube? You still have to be extremely driven and motivated. But it can be done. I think that's amazing that you can learn something like that on the internet.
It is, and it's different if you want to do music theory or I have more degrees than sense, but I did literature, I did different things like that, where you're going to talk about things and that. But when you're learning skills, you can learn skills on YouTube.
Yeah, you really can now, and I'm on YouTube at least 3 or 4 times a week trying to learn a new thing. Or if there's a record I hear that I love, I'm like, how did this person do it? How did they do it? And you can find that out now because people are pretty generous in my field anyway. There's not a lot of people who are like, oh, I'm not going to tell anyone how I did that. I think people, nerds, we call ourselves nerds, audio nerds. We're so happy when someone takes an interest because mostly when I talk about what I do in the studio, people's eyes glaze over. You know what I mean? And so when someone wants to know, I'm like, oh my God.
Let me show you.
Let me show you for
Come into my
3
room.
hours. Yeah. Yeah. So that's a cool thing about it, the sharing and the generosity, because I learn a lot from people here in town. John Fields, I've learned a ton from, Jason Orris at Terrarium, and then some of the David Z, and there's a producer in London, Chris Kinsey, that did a bunch of Stones albums and stuff that we got to be friends, and he's showed me a lot. And that's great.
I think that's just fantastic to know for people too. You can save a lot of. Plus, you have to have that tenacity to be able to do it because you are absolutely a professional and expert, but you're still learning things on YouTube. You have to have that skill.
You have
learning.
to, because things change so quickly, artistically, technically, and also like how music is ingested. You know what I mean? Just think a few years ago, Spotify wasn't a thing, and now Spotify is the thing. And you can sit around and complain about it. But I'm just not one of those guys. A lot of people my age are like, I miss tape. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not a nostalgic person at all. I like the way things are now. People forget about the things that weren't so great back in the day. And they only remember, like, how about paying for tape? How about carrying around tape? They were heavy.
Yep.
So you can't get stuck in that nostalgic, frame of mind. People go, oh, there's no good music anymore. Well, they should talk to you two.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's just, I think it's lazy. You know what I mean? That means you've stopped listening to new music, or you're not willing to do the work to go out there and flip around on playlists on Spotify and find something that you love, because there's plenty to love.
I've heard people say you're getting old when you never want to listen to something new. If you can't enjoy
I don't know
something
what that's
new.
like.
Yeah, I love to hear new
Thankfully,
things.
yeah.
I think my biggest fear in life is being bored. It terrifies me.
Yeah.
And so I'm not this person like, I'll look at, for example, I love the Replacements. I worked with Paul Westerberg. I toured with him on guitar and even produced some stuff for Replacements. But I'm not sitting at home and listening to Bastards of Young for the millionth time. Right. I've gotten what I can get out of that, and that stuff means a lot to me. But I don't listen to the same song over and over. I would rather hear something new even if I don't love it, than
Right.
something that I already know. You know what I mean? Are you guys like that?
Yes, I used to write more music reviews, and I always say, give me something I love or give me something that's a total train wreck.
Yeah.
I don't,
Yeah.
you know, I just but something new, and not that I don't have my favorite bands that I go see on
Sure.
a regular basis. You know, mostly because I like to dance to them. But something new is always.
Yeah, I just want to be moving forward. And the same with tech. You know what I mean? I am fascinated with not just microphones, but plugins and all that kind of stuff. I find them really inspiring. That's a John Fields quote. Someone was teasing him online or saying, all you talk about is plugins. And he just replied, I remember this meant a lot to me. He said, I find them inspiring. You know what I mean? And that was great. There was something so concise about that.
Mm-hmm. How do you keep up with new music? You were talking about how things change, and the artistry is one. The technology changing is easy for me to conceptualize, but what changes have you seen sort of in the artistry?
Well, the main thing is, I think, that's different from back in the day is these days, anyone who wants to make a record can make a record. And the good news is that. The bad news is that.
Yeah.
So I do notice that a lot of the artists today they've never worked. It's like a trapeze artist who's never worked without a net. Now, if you were a trapeze artist who came up back in the day before they figured out to put a net under them, if you fall, you die. You know what I mean? And that makes them maybe a little more committed. Now, that's not true with every musician these days, but I do see a lot of them like, I guess the way I illustrate it is, back in the day, the band would show up and they'd all play together and they had rehearsed their little butts off and they had their guitars set up at the guitar store and their amps were retubed and rebiased, because making a record was more like an audition. It was a big deal, because studio time was expensive, tape was expensive. And now some bands, they're like, well, this isn't our real drummer because he couldn't get off work at Pizza Hut, and my amps kind of make a funny sound, but you can reamp it later. And they used to give you like 4 takes, and at the end of the 4th take, they look at you through the glass and they go, did we get it? And now some of them look at you, they give you 12 takes, each of which has good moments in it, and they look at you and they say, you got enough? That's different, because they know I can edit it. You know what I mean? And it's not like I want to go back in the day to not being able to edit like that, but I kind of wish they didn't know that I could do that.
Right.
So there's some of that. On the other hand, there's a lot of cool records being made by people I got 2 records that are doing really well right now with this, I don't want to say girl because I hate that word, young woman in England. Not just in England, in the middle of nowhere in England. Hartlepool. You ever been there?
Nope.
You ever heard of it?
Nope. Nope.
Her name is Courtney Hadwin, and we have never met. We have logged many hours on FaceTime, and I love this person. And we get along really, really well. Now someday we'll meet and we'll hate each other. She was on America's Got Talent about 5 years ago when she was 13. She was the skinny, tiny, little shy white girl that sang that Black Crowes cover, and it went millions and millions of viral.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
That
Yes.
girl is now 18, and she did a few management deals and record deals and stuff that didn't pan out. And for some reason, for 5 years, she has never released original music. Huh. And I had been writing with her through COVID, and her last deal ended with no music being released. And I called her up and I said, Courtney, don't sign anything. Let's just do this. All right? Let's just do this. And I showed her, this is DistroKid. This is how we put music out there. This is ASCAP, blah, 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 blah. We got through it together. It wasn't hard. She's super smart. And we have 2 singles out now. And they both are hundreds of thousands of views on YouTube and tons of Spotify, because she can sing. You remember that bit of her on the singing contest show. I don't normally watch those things. They drive me crazy. I can't. Yeah. I'm too codependent to watch them. If they do bad, I feel too bad for. I can't do it. Plus the judges.
Oh yeah.
I just don't. It's all about them.
Yeah.
And some of them aren't even music people.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll never understand that. But my wife was watching that in the other room, and she was like, "Get in here!" I'm like, "No, I hate those stupid shows." 5 years ago when it happened, she goes, "No, get in here!" And I went in there and I saw that girl sing, and I was like, "Oh my god!" So we're having a great time, and we've never been in the same room together, and it works. I would prefer to work together with her here, but money, distance, it'll happen. at some point. So, but that's super fun. And I couldn't have, we couldn't have done that 15 years ago.
Right.
So that's cool.
It is, yeah. It's amazing. I'm going to pivot a little bit to talk about the album that's coming out on May 12th.
Uh-oh. May 12th, yeah.
May 12th. Because that, tell us about, I mean, you made it during COVID and because
I was bored. I told you my biggest fear in life is boredom, and I was starting to get bored. It was closing in on me.
Head on to that one, yeah.
Were they tapping you on the shoulder, or were you digging because you didn't want to be bored too?
Maybe a little of both. Good question. I just can't stand to sit there and not do anything. And COVID was actually, this seems like a weird thing to say. I don't mean to minimize the terror that it rained down on the world, but I will always remember it personally as a magic time, because I'm not a big social person. I like to be home. I like to just hang out with my wife and kids and stuff like that, and that's all I did. And we'd go walk the dog, and remember how many more birds were singing downtown? Mm-hmm. We live in South Minneapolis, and it was kind of a magic time. And again, it's a horrible thing, but we managed to make the best of it. She's in real estate now, and so she was busy, like really busy. I wasn't dead in the water, but I wasn't super busy. So I thought, I've got these songs that I've written that I know nobody else is ever going to want. And so I just started doing it.
When you say you just started doing it, how does that manifest? I
walk down I get up in the morning. I'm old, so I get up early. I get up at 7. Yeah, 2 big coffees, do the dog thing. And then I walk down a half a flight of stairs I got this awesome studio in my house with a drum room and everything is right there. No one can, the only thing that can stop me from making a record is like, well, I can't play the drums or whatever. But my good friend Noah Levy had just right before COVID, fortuitously built a great drum room above his garage in St. Paul. And so we did that, and then it took me a long time to do the record because I'm my own least favorite client. If I have a choice of doing my own thing on a day or doing something for somebody else, I would definitely pick doing something for somebody else. But eventually I got it finished, and Noah did half the drums. Peter Anderson did the other half. He's like, I don't really have a band, but if I did, he'd be in it.
Yeah.
And I learned how to play bass myself, which I hadn't done as much of before. I did that, and we just did it. So that's how it happened. Nothing exciting. Just, but now that it's done, I thought, well, I should put it out.
I'm glad you put it out. Should we listen to a song from it?
It's your show.
Let's do it.
I was going to say, did you learn the bass on YouTube?
So I'd been watching bass players much better than me for a long time, and I just, like, I can fake keyboards in the studio too, just by watching their fingers. You're like, oh, on B3 organ, they have those little draw things, draw bar things and this is how they do that. So if you're working with people that are really great and you just watch, you can kind of do it.
You can kind of do it.
Exactly.
We'd just be watching. We maybe would be dancing. That was what we would do. Do you have something you'd like us to play?
I want you to pick.
That's the one I would pick.
That one? Okay.
Yeah. California Sober.
I was going to say, it's hard.
You guys
kind of
know.
love all of them, actually. Oh, 2 things are playing.
It's better.
This is Charlie Carson.
That guy said go to hell. You know Jeremy Ilvasacker, right?
Yeah.
He did the video for this song.
He does it. Okay, good.
Him and this woman he works with, they were amazing. It's so great. Because I'm not a video guy, you know what I mean?
He does really interesting videos, I think.
Yeah.
I'm going to sneak a sip of my Diet Coke.
I was going to say, remember this too.
He's so talented and freakishly tall.
Is he?
Yeah.
He's very tall.
I was going to say everybody's tall to me, so I was like,
no, but seriously though, it's like a problem.
Really?
Yeah. Too tall. Nobody should be that tall. I'm against it.
I was going to say, yeah, I think everything he does is freakishly amazing. You know what I mean? I'm like, how can you have
I just liked him so much that
And a kind.
I wanted him to do it because I liked him so much.
Yeah.
And the price was right. I felt kind of bad because there's another woman in town who does videos, and she's a musician too. Super hipster, older hipster. I won't say names.
Yeah.
And I cold called. She's a friend of mine, and I was like, I love your videos. I want you to do a video. And I was like, I have money. You know what I mean? And I was gonna, pay whatever her rate was.
Yeah.
And she turned me down. And I was like, this is good for me because I don't get a lot of no's anymore. And I was like, this is
I like
good.
that you took that away from that. Yeah. That's interesting.
I think when you can be somebody's no, right? You're doing them a favor,
It's better than the LA or Nashville no, which is like, yeah, I'm busy right now, but call me next month. And you know what I mean? It's like, I don't even merit a no.
Yeah.
I think I'm worth a no. You know what I mean?
This is a binary, yes or no.
Yeah, exactly. But it never is in LA. It's always like, I love your songs that you sent. Send some more.
Oh.
It's like, this all day long they do this. You know what I mean? And so you never like, well, is it this? Or
Oh my
is it
God, that's what I had for describing your music. It's like flipping you off and hugging you at the same time.
There is that. I'm a big fan of that in songwriting.
Okay, I got it. I got your message.
Because this is a poppy, this is like poppy, but the lyric is actually really sad. It's actually about someone that I know.
Oh, sorry. I was like, oh.
Yeah, the bit about no one's going to break my heart but me. I'll never let you love me. I mean, I was sad for this guy. I was doing a session with him in Nashville. He's like, I was happy to work with you because I hear you're sober too. He's like, yeah, so am I. And then he has this bong the size of Kansas, and he's like hitting on it all day, and I'm like,
that whole concept is so
You're
funny.
sober
Yeah,
and my sober.
You are listening to Mostly Minnesota Music on WMCN 91.7 FM in St. Paul. That was California Sober by Kevin Bowe, and we have him right here in the studio.
hey.
Hey.
I never get tired of that one. It used to be dude. There was so many different ways and inflections. Like, dude.
Yeah.
Blah, blah. And now it's like, hey. I mean, it's like the Inuits have 100 words for snow. Hey can mean 100 different things depending on your inflection.
And your eyes.
Oh, yeah, the eyes are important. Yeah, but luckily we're on radio, so.
No one sees that mean look you just gave me.
Hey.
There you go. Proof right there. Tell us what the collections of songs you have here. Are they...
Let me see the record, because I've already forgotten what's right here.
I love that.
So, what do you want to know?
Are they new songs? Is there a collection of songs that have been in your head
Some of them
for a
are
long
new.
time?
California Sober is pretty new.
Yeah.
Put Me Out of Your Misery, kind of old. That was me trying to be Psychedelic Furs, I think. Only Child. I worked on that song for 20 years. And because I really blew it because I wrote a verse that I loved. And the music I loved. I ripped it off from Cher, Gypsies, Tramps, and Thieves, which is an amazing song. I mean, if you're anything like me, and I know I am, you love Cher. But I kept on trying to write the chorus, and for 15 years or 20 years, I think it was 20, I wrote each chorus. The time I tried to write it, it got worse and worse and worse. And then during COVID, I finally nailed it. So that was, I guess it's an oldie. I Hate Falling in Love, that was brand new. I also recorded a version of that song with Katie Vernon singing it to pitch to film and TV, and she is so good.
Yeah.
I love her. I did a couple of records on her. I hope to do another one. Half Past Never, that's new, but I write that song on every record I put out. That's my obvious Replacements ripoff. If I Was You was me ripping off The Who. That one was really hard. Like mid-period Who when they're all psychedelic.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? With the flower jackets and the I Can See for Miles.
Yeah.
Peter Anderson drummed the crap out of that song.
Because he looks like he could be in The Who.
He's in a Who tribute band.
Well, that's true. That is true.
Willie
But
Wisely and
yeah.
them? They
That
play
is true.
around
But
them.
just even see him, you're like, yeah, he could.
He is the guy for that.
Yeah. He's perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Not As Pretty As You Think You Are. I guess that's kind of New York Dolls, Mount the Hoople kind of thing that I like. Be Who You Are. When I was a little kid, my favorite Beatles song was Within You Without You, and George was always my favorite Beatle, so I've always liked that kind of fake East Indian music, pop stuff. Hurt Me Beautiful, I don't know where that came from. That sounds like Jimmy Eat World or something. It's not even my thing, but my wife really liked the song. I wasn't going to put it on the record. She's like, you have to put that on the record. And I'm like, it's going on the record.
Sorry.
She loves that one. Another Word for God is just, a singer-songwriter thing. Like, I don't know, like one of those old Texas singer-songwriters. But it's, that one's, I guess, all about the lyric. Just guitar, vocal, and then some dobro by Paul Masich. So there you go. There's the rundown. I guess I feel like I didn't really sell it on that rundown.
No.
Oh, this one I'm ripping off this, I'm ripping off that. But I had a lot of fun doing it, and I'm happy with it. It's really, I'm not going to play live. I'm not going to tour. My hope would be to maybe get some of them used in film and TV. That's something I do a lot. I don't think any of these are songs that other artists would cover, because this is not that kind of. Anyone who does music like this writes their own songs. You know what I mean? It's not like, I don't think.
Why wouldn't you play live?
I just kind of feel like I did a lot, and I quit 7 years ago, and everyone's like, God, don't you miss it? And it's like, no, I didn't hate it. I liked it. I played with my own band. I played with Alison Scott for 10 years. I toured with Paul Westerberg. I toured with Freddie Johnston and Gary Lewis from Jayhawks, and I, did a lot of gigs. It started to feel repetitive, like you're playing the same songs every night for the most part. And I don't like, like I was saying, I don't like to do that. I like something in the studio. It's not only a new song every day, it's a new person and, a new style. So every day is Halloween. You know what I mean? Whereas, playing live, I remember when I was out, I got my dream gig, right? I'm playing guitar on a national tour for Paul Westerberg. Michael Bland's on drums. I get 2,000 seat theaters. It's like the whole thing, nice hotels. And 2 weeks in, the manager hands me the set list. This is probably something, now that I've started the story, probably not. And I remember looking at the set list and not thinking, but just reacting, going, and these are my favorite songs of all time that anyone's ever written, right? Aching to Be, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, but we just played these last night. And there's something about that it was like, not to mention it's 22 hours of,
Sitting.
guys farting on a bus, and then 2 hours of glory.
Yeah.
And it was super fun, but by the end of it, I was like, okay.
I was going to say your fear of boredom again.
A lot of boredom on the road. That's why, who's that finds work for their idle hands? Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I'm married, I'm sober. It's not the ideal environment for me. I brought, mostly I read books. Yeah, my exciting Paul Westerberg tour. But, I just would rather be in the studio. It's more efficient. I'm in the studio all day, every day. Today, I was recording a old-time country, Waylon Jennings style thing with nice. A friend of mine that I'm doing a record with, Joe Heisel, and working with that British singer, Courtney Hadwin. Just finished Joanne Parker's new record. That's totally different.
Okay.
That's, R&B blues.
Blues jazzy.
Yeah. I'm working with a singer-songwriter named Scarlett Wood. She's pretty new.
Oh
yeah.
You know her?
Yep.
Yeah, because she was on the show.
Yeah.
She was
7-string acoustic nylon guitar. I didn't even know that was a thing. And she can really get around on that. That's exciting for me. You know what I mean? Someone shows up, it's like, well, what the hell is this? I worked on a mix for her today, working with Anna Graves. We did one song. We've written a second one that we got to record. Just finished mixing Chris Koza's new record. Twins of Franklin, just starting that. And then this kid, he is adorable, Quinn Sullivan. He's kind of a Johnny Lang type.
Okay.
He's from Boston, and he's a great guitar player and a great singer. And I'm not producing that; I'm just writing for it. But I've been working on it with him and John Fields, and that's really fun. So something different every day.
It's so many different genres.
Yeah.
Can you do it back to back? Do you have to have a little break? Is it like
no
10
break.
o'clock I'm doing punk, and at 2:30 I'm going to do...
It's the best. It's the best. You know what I mean? Sometimes you'll do a record, like a week with a band, but it's getting more and more rare for me, for a few different reasons. So every day is something different. And also, what you're doing is different. One day is mixing. I'm alone.
Oh, sure.
Which I love. I love working alone. It's great. One day I'm editing. A lot of people who do what I do hate that. I don't hate it. I find it kind of zen. Or they have an assistant that does it, but I have trust issues. Got to do it myself. And then the next day you're overdubbing. The next day you have a full band in there. It was great with Joanne's band because the whole band came in. I have my studio set up so that I can have 5-6 piece band all there in there together. That's super exciting, you know. And then some days it's just one person overdubbing or just one person doing vocals. So it's never boring, you know.
It makes me think if some of the music doesn't seep into the other music. And what I'm thinking about it was I was the eternal student. And when you take different classes that are, you know, you're taking math, you're taking science, you're taking some kind of literature, but whatever you're learning about in science will somehow seep into what you're reading in literature.
I think it definitely does. That's a really good point. I don't know if I've ever thought about that. But you do get in a mood, like I did something on Scarlett's record yesterday. She's like, I want the drums on this song to sound like this Amy Winehouse song. And we'd already recorded the drums. And so she wanted them dirtied up like that, you know, almost like they were sampled from an old 60s soul record. And I was like, okay. And I found a way to do it that made her really happy. And it made me really happy. And I was like, damn, I hope I get to do this tomorrow. You know what I mean? And I don't know if I will, but like that's definitely on my mind to take that thing that I did on those drums and like, I'm looking around, what can I get away with doing that on? Because it's the new thing. So it's the best thing.
Right. The newest is always...
My favorite microphone is the microphone I just got.
It feels like so much of the producing or editing and so, you know, mixing everything. Like back in the day, it feels like you were taking away things. You know, that noise shouldn't be here. That, but now it seems like it's so much more additive. Like you've gone from having a saw to having a 3D printer. You know. Well,
because it's an endless bushel now. You can throw, you know, which doesn't mean you should. I'm telling you who I learned the most about that from. Johnny Solomon from Communist Daughter. I used to call him the machete because he would record these track upon track for these Communist Daughter songs that were so beautiful. And wasn't in the band. I was just the producer. And I got so attached. And I felt like it was Sophie's choice. He would be like, yeah, we're going to cut the strings on this verse. And I was like, what? No. But he was just ruthless about it. And there's such a beauty in that, and he was so good at it that he really made an impression on me about that.
That's, I can only, I think of how hard it is for me to get rid of a certain phrase in my writing. It's going to be 100 times
That's why they usually have editors that's not, right?
Yeah.
At the publishing company, you know, my brother writes for a living books, and he sends it into his editor, and you got to have a really trusting relationship with that editor. I guess my people I work with have to trust me, but
absolutely,
yeah.
I mean, it's to them, it's got to feel like handing over a baby a lot of times.
Yeah, it is, definitely it is. I try and give them the metaphor of like, okay, you have a room and you're an interior designer. At a certain point, anything new piece of furniture you put into that room is going to be sitting on top of another piece of furniture, rendering them both useless. Nobody can sit in a chair that's sitting on top of the other chair. You know what I mean? And there's only so much room in a mix. Everyone's listening with only 2 ears. You've got stereo, field. And when that gets full, you know what I mean? Oftentimes it's like, yeah, that's a beautiful chair, but you already have a better chair in here. And if you put it on top of that one, you just look dumb, you know? And so sometimes they get it, sometimes they don't.
That's a good way to explain it, though. I mean, I think, because that chair might be perfect in a different room.
Yeah, exactly. And some songs some songs and some styles of music you can get away with being super packed in there. But others, that minimal thing, I mean, you know, at a certain point you're just covering up your song that you wrote. And like, if the song you wrote is bad, maybe that's good. You know what I mean? Some people look best in a huge parka.
Yes.
We love that in
Yes.
Minnesota, right? I love winter. And some people, you know what I mean? You just if you put a bunch of clothes on them. Yeah, exactly.
Or some days we look in a swimsuit and some days we
yeah,
should
right,
find the parka.
exactly. But you got to know, you know, I guess I always try and look at it. I look at the song with cold detachment and I go, what are we selling here? If someone loves this, why are they going to love it? Let's bring that thing out, whether it's the vocal or this or that, and let's manipulate the listener so they're listening to that. You know what I mean? And then don't cover up. Try and, you know, underplay the things that maybe aren't the best thing about the piece and play up the things that are best, you know. And some artists have a great sense of that already and some don't. So
I build websites, and that's what it offers, because everybody wants everything in their website. And, you know, I always have to come back and say, no, what are we trying to do with this website?
that's a good point. I'm probably guilty of that. And I just had a new website done for myself, and my wife is good about this, and she's like, you know, you should just have the front have those 3 little lines and nothing else, so that if then there's a picture of you and it says Kevin Bowe, blah 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 blah, you know what I do, writer, producer,
Yeah.
you know, and then if they want to, they click on those 3 lines and the menu drops down. And I was like, wow, but then I won't get to shove this in their face and this in their face. She goes, no, trust me, and I did, and it turned out great. Same thing with my studio. My old studio, I was like ass deep in tchotchkes. You know what I mean? That should have been the album title, right? Yeah. And for this studio, she's like, you know,
Yeah.
you should
Less
try and make
is
it
more.
more. Yeah, and I did it like that. It's very minimal, and it's way better. I feel like my brain is less.
Oh, absolutely.
Confused.
Stimulated.
Yeah.
As I've said to many children in my house, clean your room, and then you'll be able to think better.
It's true.
It is true. I mean, I hate to admit it. My own room might not bear witness to this, but I don't need to think clearly.
It's funny. I don't mind a little dirt, but I can't stand clutter. And my wife is like, she doesn't mind a little clutter, but she can't stand no dirt. She does not like dirt.
People can't see, but in the studio we have a lot of stuff hanging around. But the first thing Heather does when we get in here is she straightens it all up.
I can't
Cleans it all
can't.
up.
have the clutter.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can't see anything.
Yeah.
It's too much.
Noisy.
Yeah. Yep.
Same.
Agreed.
I would sit here and never.
I
look.
know. She could do it.
But I don't mind a little dirt, a little dust.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
You
know.
know
I
what mean?
can.
I don't love it, but I'm not like, I don't hate it enough to go grab that
Well, that's
vacuum.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
I
Should we
know.
listen to another song?
I'm wanting to.
What do you guys want to hear?
I like the Put Me Out of Your Misery.
Oh, good.
Ready?
Yeah.
Kevin Bowe, put me out of your misery.
Actually, I like the shoot, Be Who You Are too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought
And
I'd be
I
the
don't
only one to
think-
like that song.
Oh no. I really
This one I
like
like because I played a harpsichord part in it, and I love harpsichord, like Partridge Family and that stuff.
Yeah.
Cowsills, you know what I mean? There was a time period, yeah.
Yeah.
It just does make you just want to go, like, so sunshiny, you know what I mean? And that kind of fake Baroque,
Yeah.
you know?
Uh,
See, this song, this is an example of, like, I just couldn't let this one go. I wrote this song mostly myself, but there was 2 other guys in the room in Nashville. One of them's an artist, and one of them's the producer. And, you know, and it's that Nashville conveyor belt. It wasn't a country artist. He's a British guy. And I thought it was such a great song. I loved it. And we finished writing it, and neither of those 2 did very much on it at all. That's not always the case. I have songs I've written where I didn't do that much.
Yeah.
And then the artist is like, I don't want to put it on my record. I was like, you fucking asshole. And it happens all the time. You know what I mean? And I was like, you know what? I don't care. I'm gonna even though I only own 1/3 of it now, I'm gonna put it out. You know, so I showed him.
I love
Yeah,
it. I love the lyrics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, that's gotta. I would have a hard time working with people on. I have a hard time collaborating. I'll just admit it.
Well, it can be great and it can be horrible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It depends. But and I like the producer guy on that session. Actually, that's the guy that I wrote California Sober about. But yeah, I just was like, I'm going to record this anyway. I don't care if this guy.
Well, good.
Was his record tanked?
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. That's all we need to know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He was never heard from again. There's something 80s about this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not exactly psychedelic furs, they were heavier, but there's something that time period.
I know. I love it.
I loved that shit. Echo and the Bunnymen, Psychedelic Furs, Teardrop Explodes. I was way too into that stuff at the time.
I'm sad to hear they're not gonna do a show though.
Who? Me?
Yeah. I get it, but
there was this moment where I had stopped playing and I went to my block party, you know, and I'm in Tangletown. And this woman, my neighbor at the time, really nice woman, she's like, so, how, you know, are you playing anywhere or whatever? And I was like, no, I don't do that anymore. Oh, like, you gotta keep playing. You gotta keep playing. And I looked at her and I was like, bitch, you've never come and seen me play, and I've known you for 6 years. Why do I have to keep doing it? What is up? What? You know what I mean?
Just want to have the option.
Exactly.
She wants to
Someday.
Yeah, someday. It's the right time, the right place, the right weather.
And when I quit, you know, I was like playing at the Dakota and stuff. It was like nice cushy gigs, early, good food.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it was the same people, and it just felt like repeating myself.
All right, before we go on here.
Yeah.
Here we are, Kevin Bowe. Just listening to the music. Yeah.
Don't we have to say this is WMCN every like 5 minutes? Or you get in trouble with the
you know,
FCC?
twice an hour.
Twice an
Yeah.
hour?
But I can. WMCN, 91.7 FM. Beautiful
I love it when they
McAllister
do
College
that.
campus. I wake up sometimes saying that. Yeah.
Do you?
No.
In your dreams?
In my dreams. My dreams, yeah.
What happens if you're sleeping at night and you don't say it twice an hour?
I don't know.
You'll
The
wake up in an
FCC. I get a
alternate-
call from the FCC.
Might not wake
No,
up.
you'll wake up in the upside down. That's what happens.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that might happen.
Mm.
That might happen. Yeah. We were just saying that we wish that you'd play it live, but I kind of like that you don't. I mean, it's a different.
I love it that I do.
Right?
I had a good time doing it. I really did, but I just feel like. Also, I think there's a part of me that's like, I just don't want to be one of those old dudes up there like, yeah, I still rock. You know what I mean? And I love it that the Rolling Stones are still out there doing it, and bands like that, and local people. It's not that I begrudge other people do it. I was never really all that successful with it. So it's not like I'm leaving legions of fans disappointed. You know what I mean? Anytime anyone ever showed up at one of my gigs, it was because I was backing up somebody else. You know what I mean? My bands never drew a crowd or anything like that. Because by the time I got any good at it, I was too old.
Oh.
You know what I mean? And if you don't grab those fans, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
You'd hate
Soul
to think
Asylum
that's not true,
can,
but
you know what I mean?
yeah.
When you go to Soul Asylum show, not that they don't have new fans too, they do, and they're still great, but they have this legacy, you know what I mean? And I don't have that. My legacy is in doing stuff for and with other people.
Well, and you have the tools to make your music sound exactly like you want in the studio, where no one has the tools to do that on stage.
Yeah, that's true. Some of these songs wouldn't even, you know, like the Beatles when they made Sgt. Pepper, they're not, you know, they wouldn't even try and do them live. But the last band I had, the last Okima Prophets band I had, was a 3-piece. And Peter was on drums, Peter Anderson. And that was a great band. And it was a little frustrating for me because we couldn't get arrested.
Oh.
You know, this one bar owner's like, yeah, I'll give you a gig. Do you guys draw? And I'm like, dude, we don't even sketch. You know, I mean, we don't, just nobody is going to show up, okay? Because we're old, you know what I mean? And I feel like kids, you know, young people, they should go see their bands. You know what I mean? That are their age, that they love. You know what I mean? And there's something I like about that. But that band was awesome. It was that was, and those 3-piece bands are tricky. The balance. I mean, that is really difficult to do. But also, it was exhausting because I was singing all the songs and playing the only guitar. I mean, at the end of like 2 sets of that, I was done.
I'd say, yeah.
And also, then the next day in the studio, I'd be kind of half-assed, and that's no good.
No.
You know, I think the other thing is to be a real artist. I mean, a real, like a Bruce Springsteen or whatever. I think you have to have a part of yourself where when the people are out there clapping, that like fills your soul and you need it. And I'm not saying I don't have an ego, I do, but like after years of playing in punk rock bands, when punk rock pre-Nirvana was not popular, you know, you get this attitude, not jaded, but kind of like, we do it for us. That was always the early punk thing. We don't do it for the crowd, we do it for us. And you learn to have your own fun, not relying on audience support, because we didn't have audience support. And I think that, so I've done gigs where we played horribly and people clapped and just loved it. And so you kind of go, what are you know what I mean? And let's face it, a lot of them are drunk, you know what I mean? And then I've done gigs where we played brilliantly and people completely ignored us or didn't show up. And so I just don't have a lot of trust with that. My ego is better served. When people clap, I'm kind of like, okay, I'm glad they like it, whatever. But in the studio, if I do a move and the artist I'm working for says, oh my God, you've just made me sound better than I ever thought I could. Now, that makes me, that's what I'm here to do. And so, because, you know, like the last several, well, actually most of the time I was playing live, I was pretty sarcastic on stage and stuff like that. And it turns out people don't really like that. You know?
Yeah.
Like Westerberg could get away with it, but when I do it, it's not so
as
much.
well received.
No, not really.
I was gonna say I appreciate seeing people on stage, even if it's not whatever their best performance. If I know they're feeling it or something gets them, I'm energized by that, even if it's not the best.
Well, where the hell were you?
I don't know, but I would show up to the neighborhood block party for sure.
No, I did have a lot of fun a lot of times playing live, but just and part of it is an age thing and an energy thing. I just felt right. But yeah, people can't believe it. They're like, God, don't you miss it? And it's like, no, I don't. I don't regret it, but I don't.
Yeah.
I love what I'm doing now. You know.
Even better.
Yeah.
Even better, and to know that about yourself is wise.
It wasn't hard. It wasn't hard. It wasn't a hard decision at all. I just kind of woke up one day, you know, kind of one of those things where you're like, I think I was doing it out of habit. Kind of, you know, you get into these habits, especially later in life. It's like, well, you know, why do you walk your dog at 5 o'clock? Well, because I did it yesterday and the day before and the day before and the day before. And, you know, and I couldn't come up with one reason financially, artistically, emotionally of why I would want to go out and do a gig, you know. So yeah, I'm happy to not be doing it, but I'm happy I did it.
I was gonna say you learned from the machete.
Yeah, I did. The machete, Johnny Solomon, the machete. That was a great band to see live. Communist Daughter was a great live band, and they made it sound exactly like the record.
It always did, yeah.
Not easy.
I remember seeing them behind the Mill City Museum, and there were so many kids dancing, and it was so much fun. It was just a fun.
I think I might have been at that one.
Yeah, it was a beautiful night outside there.
Little kids dancing.
Yeah, one of them being mine. Yeah.
One of the last times I saw them, they did this fundraiser thing as an outdoor festival at Hazelden, and it was them, and then also Harmar.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, who booked this?
Yeah, that is a strange.
A little conflicted. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that is.
Anyways.
Mixed. That is mixed. Well, said we would go see you if you were playing, but we're so delighted that you've made the album, and I think that is one of the what we always call the COVID silver linings.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah. I'm glad you guys like it.
Yeah. It's delightful. I'm looking at the clock on the wall. Should we play one more song and then?
Sure.
Yeah, but.
We're gonna let you choose this time, since.
Okay, which one am I not sick of the most? Let's do. I don't think my wife's listening, so I don't have to pick the one that she likes. Let's do the shortest one. How's that? Not as pretty as you think you are.
Oh, I like that one too.
All right.
Give me 1 second here.
Okay.
Nope.
How can you like that song? It's so mean.
Not as pretty as you think you are?
Yeah, that's a mean.
It's got a good beat. No, I don't. Like I said, I like the.
That one is all. There's
Yeah,
no warm
I know,
blood
that's
in that
true.
one.
I love
Maybe
it,
it's
yeah.
the placement, so I don't totally only get this.
That one just came from like I thought it was a funny title. You know what I
do
mean?
like
It's like the lyric makes no sense. It's just a bunch of like rock shit in there.
I like it.
And then that
Yeah.
talking thing, that's up. You guys you remember Mott the Hoople?
Yeah.
All the way from Memphis. Remember that song? The other guy like does the talkie vocal. That's where that's from. I bought that record in 8th grade.
Oh.
Oh, the Mott the Hoople live record. the band is on stage on the cover, and in the back there's all these marionettes hung in effigy behind the band. And I remember I grew up in Wayzata, so this is not a lot of Mott fans back then. I remember all my friends were like, you're a fag, and I'm like, maybe I am, because these guys are great.
Yeah.
That's what people want to call it.
Yeah.
So.
Back then, yeah.
Wow. I like the of it.
It's Noah's drum track.
Bruh.
The energy in it is incredible. Yeah, then he goes, "Oh, shut up!" right before the guitar solo. That's Prince.
Oh.
Shut up! You know, he has on those Housequake era records. He's always like, "Shut up!" I always thought that was so funny.
See, I like the little snippets each song gives you. A little, yeah, like treasures of you in there. Yeah, this one is short, isn't it?
It is short. I like those short songs, though.
No, so that 20 seconds.
Someday I'm just gonna have to admit defeat and get bifocals.
Yeah.
I think it would be confusing. My wife wears them, and I'm like, how do you know?
I know that's what I'm a little. It's when I finally fall down the stairs at First Avenue because I can't. I'm holding on to the railing.
How long do you think before?
2 more beers.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Kevin Bowe, not as pretty as you think you are.
Wait, did you just say that to me?
I did, but I'm reading what you wrote.
Yeah, it's autobiographical. That's what people don't get about this.
It's all about me.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming in. Tell folks when and how they can get the new CD.
Okay, the video single, and I should give a shout out, props, respect to Jeremy Ilvesacker, because he did a great job on the video. So if you Google Kevin Bowe, Bowe, California Sober, that YouTube video will come up, and he really nailed it. And the rest of the record comes out May 12th, and it'll be available on all your favorite streaming platforms. There will be CDs available on my website, because my publicist, Krista, hi Krista, made me press CDs. I wasn't gonna, but she said, no, you have to. I said, okay. And then, SoundCloud and Bandcamp too.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing
Thanks.
it. And yeah, we go back to songs about careers and jobs.
Got Molly Mayer with Find the Shepherd.
Thank
Is
you,
that the
thank
theme?
you. Yeah.
Jobs.
Career opportunities, Clash, right?
Yes,
Is that
but
the theme?
But we're
it's
in
Minnesota. It's got to be in Minnesota. I know. All Minnesota music.
Yeah, that must be challenging with it if it's a theme day. And you
It's
have to
always
just,
a theme day.
And then only Minnesota bands, like you must have to really know your shit.
Well, the nice thing,
It's fun, yeah.
yeah, and I usually invite people, and people send in. But otherwise, you would end up playing the same 10 bands. I mean, just in the same way of, is it 5 o'clock? I walk my dog.
Yeah.
This
Right.
makes you kind of go out of different things.
Right, to find the theme.
Yeah.
Do you guys like Gully Boys?
Yes.
Yes.
I want to produce that band.
All right.
Honestly, I'd fucking work with them for free. Don't you tell anyone that
No.
except them.
Hang on.
I had a meeting with them once during COVID.
Hang on.
Oh yeah.